So, is all self help helpful? And does it actually help ourselves? I'm Dion from Mutilation Support Services, and welcome to this intuitive chat. There's a lot of good information out there, and if you're receiving information that is making your life a lot better and you've come from quite a dark place, then by all means keep going. This is not a knock on self-help. It's just an awareness that some self-help sounds nice, but it has kind of like a no real world application in a way. There's no sort of practicality to it. Like, it's kind of like with ChatGTP. It sort of collates information and then quickly presents the information in a different way. There's also where, way before ChatGTP existed, when I was looking at creating blogs, some of the information, like to write a blog, was to go to other blogs, kind of copy and paste in a way, and then redo it in your own way. So it was kind of a pre-ChatGTP process where people were just copying from each other and then just rewording it in a slightly different way, which is kind of all information in a way. Everything's kind of a copy of a copy of a copy. It's just a modification of something. And it can be like this with some form of self-help, is that everyone says the same sort of things, or someone has a similar idea, or someone's inspired by someone and they take upon that and then build upon that. It can get further from the truth of what was the actual intent of something. I've used that example with the word discipline, where it's like, disciplinary punishment, I need to push myself, I need to be more motivated, I need to do all these things, when the actual origin of the word, the root of the word, means just discipulus, a pupil, to follow something. So you'd be choosing a profession that you'd be a disciple of, you'd be a pupil of, and you want to be a pupil of something that you feel is good for your future. So there's some things where the original source, or what we're reading of a self-help, can get mixed, can get muddled, and sometimes taken away from its original source. And in a way that can be a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. I know in the field of EFT tapping, for example, especially when it gets into anything around energy, then a lot of different things or concepts or belief systems or modifications of belief systems can come in. I know a lot of quantum physics gets brought into almost a psychological field, metaphysics, which is actually a philosophy, or the universe, or what is the cutting edge of physics, for example. I guess a way of looking at where some self-help might not be too helpful, but kind of does sound nice. The somewhat questionable quote of Albert Einstein, where it was Albert Einstein or a channeler known as Daryl Anker, who works in the energy field. Everything is energy, that's all there is to it. Match your frequency with your reality, and there you have it. This is not a philosophy, this is a science. And if I badly butcher that quote, I really don't care. Because it does sound nice. Everything is energy. And actually physics has proven that, yes, everything is energy. And there is something that does connect everything. I'll put a link to a video of a guy that does go for a lot of physics information. But what actually connects everything is not beams of light or anything like that. It's actually kind of like a tendril of dark matter. It's dark matter, which they're still trying to understand. And there's always going to be that scientific discovery of more knowledge. And I'll get back to that quote, but I'll just lead you into why that saying might not be quite helpful. I've worked 14 years in mental health. I've worked in quite some tricky situations with people getting out of prisons. I've worked with people coming out of long-term mental institutions, so going to those sorts of places and seeing the real-world applications of what's going on. Psychiatric wards, gone in there, worked one-on-one with people in their homes. I mean, if we're looking at life coaching, life mentoring is just one aspect of the job. Dealing with people that are wanting to end their life and having to do suicide intervention in that. There's a lot of real world stuff. And sometimes it does take those practical elements that are going to be beyond kind of a nicety of a quote. I've worked with people where I'm in hospital environments where you're in the ER unit, and there's a person that has probably consumed a lot of drugs, is out of it, they're being very abusive. Doctors are trying their best to make them a little bit more better than currently what they are. But never in my mind does it consider for me to go into that situation to simply say, everything is energy. and you need to match your frequency with your reality, and there you have it. That's all there is to it. And this is not a philosophy, it's a science. I guess the benefit is I'll already be in the ER. They won't have to take me far because I don't think I'll get a very positive result. You could also look at that statement as everything is energy, and all you have to do is match your frequency to your reality. So all you have to do if you've got depression is just to be more happy. You just need to match yourself to be more happy, which doesn't actually address the reality of the situation. As an EFT tapping practitioner, it's not something that I want to enter into, because people, if they're doing tapping, are wanting, or any form of therapy, are wanting to get better, to heal themselves. They're wanting to deal with that issue. They're wanting to heal themselves. If you go into a physiotherapist like I have, sort of thing, I don't want them to be giving me a nicety of a quote. I want them to actually be helping me get my leg better. I want to be able to deal with my emotional issues with a proper person that's qualified, that's not going to be philosophizing. The kind of ironic saying of no ego, we go. And at first I kind of thought it was a good statement, but it's another just catchy term that kind of like, when the more you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. Knowing of yourself with no self at all, like you basically don't exist, because you can't know of yourself. There is no knowing of an identity, so no ego. Because if we've got no ego, then how do we know we've got no ego? But then it goes on to, but we go. But who's we? We as an identity. And sometimes that can be almost interpreted of like, you're not allowed to have your sense of self. There's a community mindset, a conformity mindset, and someone's actually directing where we need to go. So any freedom of thought, any thinking of for yourself, no ego, we go. Trauma is a disconnection from ourselves. So we're wanting to reconnect to ourselves. And what created that disconnection was not nice stuff. This was stuff that was told to us that we were worthless, we weren't deserving of these things. So sometimes we're thinking a lot of negative thoughts of ourselves, and it's kind of an insult to know that it's actually a choice, that we're choosing this, and that we can only just choose to be more happy. You need to actually address the issues that are preventing the actual happiness from actually happening. It's kind of not even rocket science at this point. There's also the awareness that self-help books are written by a person, a self, who has had a situation that they've tried to overcome, and they've gone on a journey, whatever it is, and now they are writing from their experiences, their set of experiences that help themselves. Now, we all have different sets of experiences, and even if we experience something, the exact same event, be it traumatic or happy, whatever it is, we're all going to interpret that for our own past sets of experiences and what that means to us. So you can have one set of experiences that mean completely different to a lot of people. There's going to be different interpretations of how we apply the self-help. There's also going to be different outcomes of whatever steps there are that might be different to the person that has achieved or written that book. And there's some of it where we need another person to actually reflect back to us some of those cognitive blind spots that we're not aware of, or where we're holding tension that we might not be aware of, or there might be things that, that you seem to get negative results and you find out, oh, it's not everyone else's problem, it's just certain things that have happened to me that are impeding my life from getting a bit more abundance, a bit more success in my life. So addressing that, you'd kind of want to address that so you could actually have that. Because if something is stopping you from achieving what you want, and if it's what you want, and you know it's what you want, and you feel it's what you want, then you kind of want to look at what's getting in your way, which is that block. So we start to get a better sense of self, which would imply that changing ourselves is also going to imply grief, loss, and all this. So sometimes seeking a positive experiences means that you're going to be in a grieving process because you're changing from what was to what you want to be. So there's also always going to be some form of loss in that. So it's always good to have someone to actually help you with that, or to be understanding that you're going through a process of change. So there's a process where also identifying parts of our background set of experiences where what you would know as our identity, I guess your ego in a way, because our ego is just a collection of our experiences, then there's going to be parts of those experiences that are holding us back, that don't feel too good, that might be going to substances to actually address or self-soothe some of these things. The person that wants better for themselves is the same person that's seeking improvement. And similar with reading self-help books, you're reading something, you're absorbing it into your cognitive mind, which becomes a dialogue or relationship between yourself and the book. Then it's always going to be a cognitive knowing of something. It's always going to be a rationalization of probably still emotions that are stored within the body. So EFT tapping works to process some of these stored traumas, these emotions that are on the unconscious level, and it also helps to downregulate the amygdala. And sometimes what's good for our own selves is not going to feel too good. So addressing some of these emotional issues, touching upon these things that we may have been avoided or not even been aware of, is going to be a process of uncomfortableness. Like I've said in some of my videos with the SUD score, sometimes it goes up before it goes down. As we touch upon something, it's going to intensify before it settles. So it's knowing that sometimes there's going to be the healing process of dealing with the negative emotions to actually allow the positive emotions to to take place. A simple analogy is a room. If the furniture is completely cluttered, or kind of like an artery where it's congested, it's going to actually have hard to have space to have the freedom to live your life. So you kind of want to clear that clutter, clear that space. I mean, Dr. Peter Stapleton, who's a researcher at the Bond University, she's but it was like meridian system sort of thing, but now they've found the premovascular system. So it's kind of like that's actually what you're tapping on, those meridian lines, is the premovascular system. So it's kind of a vascular system where if you get constriction, then things feel tense. So to release that is to go with the flow. Everything flows a little bit more easier. So, and if we've got blockages in ourselves, which if you went to an acupuncturist, they're trying to clear the blockages. So anything that's blockage is constricted, it's caught up. And even with where it stands with Taoism, that they look at a lot of, okay, well, you've got issues, but we actually need to work at addressing these issues. There's going to be in some internal alchemy, there's going to be some internal cultivation of how we actually get better. Is it going to be through Tai Chi train? Is it going to be through Qigong? Is it going to be knowing of yourself? There's going to be some form of element where we connect back into ourselves. Similar with EMDR, you're following your eyes to get that rapid eye movement. What you do in your sleep when your conscious mind is switched off, and you're doing that rapid eye movement to process, because that's what that rapid eye movement is doing when you're asleep. It's processing your day. And sometimes we have stressful things in our day that we wake up in the middle of the night quite distressed, and then we discipline ourselves back into sleep. It's like, why did I wake up at 12 o'clock? It's like, now I'm going to be tired. But if we come from the universe, if there was a Big Bang, or if they've changed that knowledge now, I did see something where they've changed about the Big Bang as well. Everything formed together, the earth spun around the sun, created, we've got life and all that. And then humans, we're a part of the universe. So the part that we're actually asking for help is ourselves, which is the self-help thing. So we are of the universe. So it's not an external source. We are the source. So sometimes it's looking at the internal, at the things that are holding us back, so we can actually be a bit more within ourselves. And if trauma is a disconnection of self, we're wanting to reconnect to ourselves and get a better sense of self. So yeah, there is some self-help out there that is great, and if it's helping you, once again, continue going. But it's also having an awareness that there is a lot of different help advice out there, but it's how it applies to you. And there's some of it where we need another person to actually reflect back to us some of those cognitive blind spots that we're not aware of. So yeah, looking at it from that perspective. So I'm down from Emotion Support Services, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.